everyone. My name is Charmaine Walters and I am the infant sleep coach at soundlysleeping.co.uk. This morning I'm going to talk about identifying what your baby's cues are communicating to you. And the reason for this is because I received 2 emails this week from 2 mums who were not having the same problem, but they're basically having an issue with identifying when their baby was tired and what those cues would mean. First of all, I explained to them that there are some indicators and some cues that are quite common across all babies. For example, if you're playing with a baby and they suddenly lose interest in what you're doing, that could be an early sign of tiredness. If their eyes glaze, they start pulling at their ears, rubbing their eyes. Obvious signs are also crying, just also the drowsiness. So I explained to them to look for those cues, but also I encourage them to follow a routine throughout the day that would help them better identify around about those times every day when their baby would be tired. I explained to them that a good approach to follow would be to follow the EASY acronym, which is something that I adopted when I read the Tracy Hogg book many years ago, The Baby Whisperer. And it's a very simple way of implementing a routine, not a schedule, but an actual routine where you can have the cycle of eating, activity, sleep, and you time, which is what the Y is for. So the E is for eating, A is for activity, S is for sleep, and the Y is for you time. Start the day at 7 a.m. with a feed, then you have some playtime, and then notice and watch out for when your baby loses interest in what you're doing and see if you can identify that your baby is signaling to you that she is tired. If you can do that, then you can go about beginning to get them settled, ready for bed. So that is a really good way of learning what your baby's cues are, is to follow a cycle of activity throughout the day: eating, activity, sleep, and then you time for you when your baby is sleeping. And then by process of elimination, it'll be easy to identify what exactly it is that your baby is signaling to you. Also, I wanted to answer a few other questions that I got emailed about last week that I didn't have time to answer. First one is from Megan, and she says, I'm having difficulty weaning my 7-month-old off the 3 a.m. feed. I'm putting less formula in and more water, but she wakes up earlier for her morning feed, now at 5:30 a.m. instead of 7. She wakes at 3 a.m. wide awake, babbling away to herself, and is awake until bang on 4 a.m. I could set her watch by her. Sometimes I can hear her tummy rumbling, so it seems like she's really hungry. Oh, bless her. Megan, it is quite common for babies to still be hungry overnight, so I wouldn't worry too much about the fact that she's hungry. What I would suggest you do is, instead of watering down her feeds, so say for example you might be putting 7 ounces of water in a bottle and then putting in only 6 scoops of formula or 5 scoops of formula, I would suggest giving her the proper measures of formula, i.e. 6 scoops of formula with 6 ounces of water, but instead give her less of it. So instead of letting her have full 6, offer her 5 and see if you can settle her back to sleep. That way, she doesn't get the illusion of feeling full and her stomach gets used to having less and less throughout the night. Also, a good thing to do is to fill up her daytime time. Try and get her eating lots of rich foods. Well, I say rich foods, but be careful about the foods. But fill up her daytime time. She's 7 months old. Is it a girl? Yeah, she's 7 months old. So she could be having sort of porridges at breakfast. At lunchtime, she could be having vegetables, pasta, potatoes, a little bit of light protein, chicken, turkey. In the evenings, pretty much the same thing. And her bottles. Fill up her daytime time. Get her eating the majority, if not all, of her nutritional needs between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And then hopefully as she gets older and she develops, she will drop that nighttime feed. I have another question here from Siobhan. My 6-month-old was sleeping through the night, but since he was sick a few weeks ago, he wakes once a night. If I go in and turn on the white noise, he goes back to sleep with no issues. But is there any way to stop this night waking? He isn't going through any wonder weeks and his teeth aren't bothering him. Anything major? Thanks a million. Hi Siobhan, thanks for your question. I would say whenever a baby is ill, it always tends to throw a spanner in the works. So it's quite normal for sleep to be interrupted. It's brilliant that you found a way of coping with his sleep. And I have recently discovered, well, I say recently discovered, it's something that I've kind of sussed out all along. But I have recently started using white noise machines with some of the children that I work with and experimenting with various sounds. And it really seems to work well. I'm finding in my years of working with children that complete silence can actually be a pain in the neck. So if you're finding that white noise is working well for him, I would say put it on all night, quite low, so that when he does come into his light sleep and start waking up, he will hear it, immediately be comforted by it, and flow back off to sleep quite quickly. So I hope that's answered your question. Katerina, she says, I have a 16-month-old. She sleeps with me and wakes up to 4 times a night. Initially, my husband settles her in her cot, but after she wakes up, she calls for me and only wants to be near me, and nothing but breastfeeding will settle her. I guess it's a very common story. I've tried to hold her in my arms instead of feeding her to settle her, but with calm words, all to no result. Hi, Katerina. It sounds like your little one, she's 16 months old, she has intensified her separation anxiety. And I think what she's craving, even though this is a massive, massive assumption because I know very little about your backstory, but it sounds to me like because your husband is settling her, she's actually craving more time near you. So when she's waking up in the night, instead of wanting daddy because she knows that she will get the comfort, but daddy's not mummy, she's craving to be near you. So I would recommend that you get into the habit of settling her to bed in the evening and still breastfeeding her, but in decreasing the amount of time